It's Friday, 10:37 Pacific Standard Time, on June 23rd, 2022, and I am laying in a queen-sized hotel room bed in the city of Anaheim, California. I have never seen so many strip malls in my life. I am deliriously exhausted as my Eastern Standard Time zoned body clock screams inside my flesh prison that has been awake for 20 hours. This morning I awoke to the news that Roe v. Wade had been overturned, and now the sound of not very distant at all nightly fireworks of Disneyland crashes over the hotel parking lot and fills my room after 9 hours of working in a loud conference room turned hip lounge, creating art of famous YouTubers who make more money from a single video than I do in a year. I really hate fireworks. In this moment, nothing feels real or right, and I am sure everything is completely meaningless, including myself. When I get back home, I'll have to remind myself to make a video about this moment, because I've finally broke a viewer. VidCon really and truly broke me. I'm starting to think that maybe nothing is real. Maybe you aren't either, viewer. So what the hell is VidCon? VidCon is a convention started independently by Hank and John Green, aka the Vlogbrothers, way back in 2010 in Los Angeles, California. For those who are perhaps younger or weren't extremely online 12 years ago, the Vlogbrothers were influential creators on YouTube who helped popularize the concept of vlogging, as their name would entail. The first VidCon had only 1,400 people in attendance. And it was a way for those initial big YouTubers to connect with each other and their fans under a common interest of creating videos for the internet. For context, this came only 1 year after the first channel hit 1 million subscribers in 2009, which was Fred. And things were a lot different at this point on YouTube. It wasn't really like a career you could just do. And the money invested in YouTubers were based more on like community support. Now, for comparison, there are around 30,000 channels with 1 million subscribers or more. VidCon grew rapidly after its first year, expanding beyond just YouTubers, and the attendance reached more than 30,000 by 2017. The Vlogbrothers sold VidCon to Viacom, which was absorbed into Paramount the following year. The vibe shift when this acquisition took place was pretty clear to most people, and since being owned by a giant media corporation, it has become offensively corporatized. The number of attendees went from 75,000 in 2019 to now just 50,000 in 2022. Perhaps this is writing on the wall for the future of this event, or it could just be a result of COVID. I think the bizarre nature of this convention that didn't necessarily occur to me before attending was like, most conventions have some sort of like hobby or maybe like a genre of media or even a particular show that draws people in, like anime or Star Trek, comics, or even furries. But VidCon is based around individual, real people who make videos for the internet that are just there. I don't know, it's just like very odd to me. Like, what is the average person like going there for? If you aren't a creator, like what are you doing there? Like what brings you there? Meeting your favorite TikToker or like hearing a panel? I guess I just don't get it. I don't know, maybe I'm old, but it just kind of weirds me out because these are like very much just real people. They aren't like people that are playing a character in a show, or like, you know, it's not people that make a show that everyone loves, or it's not a genre of things. It's just like internet celebrities. I don't know. So what the fuck was I doing at VidCon? I was hired by an agency contracted by YouTube to go to VidCon and create portraits of the creators with large audiences invited to a YouTube specific area called their Creator Lounge. There were several other artists I was working alongside of on this as well, and the general purpose was for it to be a cool experience for large influencers in their lounge and the art we made would also be used as marketing material for YouTube's social media accounts. And this is when it's maybe the most appropriate time for me to say, despite perhaps the unnice things I will go on to say in this video, pretty much everyone I worked with directly during VidCon was lovely and great. The staff for the YouTube Lounge was incredibly friendly and helpful, and the other artists I worked with were awesome and talented. The folks at the agency that hired me were all very welcoming and did everything they could to make the experience as best as they could be. And I think it is also important for me to be transparent about the fact that they did pay me fairly on top of covering my travel and my hotel expenses. So this video is not meant to slander them or anyone I worked with at VidCon. My specific criticisms are towards the actions of some of the creators as well as the macro issues at play, but I'm not going to mention any names when addressing it. So let's rewind and go back to even before I got there to set the scene. On Tuesday, June 21st, I boarded a plane for the first time since 2019 from Portland, Maine to Anaheim, California, which is like possibly the longest distance you can travel within the continental United States. And I did it to travel to VidCon. Lucky me. It was my first experience flying since the beginning of COVID, and hoo boy, did people sure lose touch with what is socially acceptable during the last couple of years. Or maybe I just forgot like what other people are like. During my travel, I encountered a man in the Chicago airport whose only luggage was a fully assembled Lego ship in a bottle. And he was just like spinning it around on the table while also singing out loud the music that was playing in the terminal. And then when I got on the plane from the Chicago airport to California, a woman across the aisle sat herself down with an entire large pizza in a box. Like she pulled the large sized pizza box from under the chair in front of her, opened it up. It had like a million toppings and she just like fucking ate the whole thing. Which like power move, I can respect that. I too will eat an entire large pizza myself, but maybe not on an airplane. And also, where did she even get an entire large pizza? Many unanswered questions. After 8 hours in the sky, I finally arrived to Anaheim, California at 10:30 p.m. where I took an Uber from the airport to the hotel. Although it was very dark and my eyes were weary from travel, I was still able to make out the countless strip malls and like shopping plazas. And I had realized I had seen more of them on this 15-minute drive from the airport to the hotel than probably exists in the entire state of Maine. I'm sorry to anybody that lives in the OC, but the aesthetic looks like Florida, Texas. I was not in love with it. I'm from such a small town, and even though I lived in a major city for a couple of years, I think I kind of forgot what it was like, or maybe it just looks radically different on the West Coast. Although someone did describe Orange County as being full of stuff, but completely empty, which is kind of maybe sort of the tagline for this whole experience. The second instance of culture shock was realizing I was staying literally right next to Disneyland, and everyone in my hotel was wearing like either matching Disney memorabilia with like the fucking Mickey Mouse hats. And it like really dawned on me how weird the concept of Disneyland is. I mean, I've been to Disney World as a child, but it didn't really occur to me just like how bizarre the concept of Disneyland is. Like it is a 365 Disney convention and everyone is like, yes, this is great. I love the talking mouse and that now owns every piece of media that I've ever watched. Give me a turkey leg. Anyway, when I was finally settled in my hotel room, I knew that it was absolutely necessary for me to first entrench myself in the local cuisine. So I ordered Del Taco for the first time in my life. It was fine. It was fine. Luckily, I didn't have to be at VidCon until later the next day, so I was able to eat my crispy chicken taco with habanero sauce in peace before passing the fuck out while watching a documentary about steam-powered trains in China. On Wednesday morning, still exhausted and now anxious. I made shitty hotel room coffee, took a long shower using, and this is important to note, the same exact products that I use at home. And without putting any more thought or effort than what I usually do, my hair just started doing this. Except it doesn't look nearly as good as it did when I was in California. People have said that maybe it was like the ocean or the humidity, but I live right next to the ocean here, and it started doing that even before I left the hotel room. I think this was another sign that things were just not right. And I began wondering that maybe while I was asleep, someone hacked me into the mainframe in some sort of Matrix-like simulation, except they got my hair wrong. Maybe this was the metaverse, folks. Or this could be my Leland Palmer moment, like in the second season of Twin Peaks when he wakes up inexplicably with different hair. Except I definitely did not. Thankfully, after feeling ungrounded by the mouse hats and the incorrect simulation hair, I was lucky enough to meet a friend at a delicious Thai restaurant before we were going to VidCon for the first time. As I pulled up to the convention center, we drove by a banner on the side of the building that was about 75 feet tall and just said a TikTok. And I think the scale of the corporatization of VidCon really set in for me when I saw that. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into at the time, to be quite honest. I had only witnessed VidCon vicariously on the internet from 2010 to 2015, and I knew the attendance numbers because I looked it up, but I thought to myself, oh, I've been to certain fandom conventions of 10,000 people, and it will be just like that, but a little bit bigger. Thankfully though, the event I was spending all my time in was in a separate hotel that was detached from the convention center. And this area was more or less a creator-focused area. I don't really know if it was VIP or invite only, or what the credentials you needed to have to get in were, but I don't think everybody could come to this event. And it was such a shame that I was stuck there the whole time and missed out on such great panels throughout the weekend, such as how NFTs bring together creators and communities, influencer marketing with crypto, how to make money with crypto, Web3 and NFTs, the next level of engagement with fans, how brands can leverage blockchain tech to increase fan engagement. I even could have attended the power of Web3 and metaverse, the future of media and entertainment, or dissecting the metaverse, or how can your brand thrive in the metaverse, and music in the metaverse, and maybe even
connecting through the metaverse.
If only I was so lucky. And of course, I think I was the most disappointed that I missed. Imagine a Nobel Prize for content creation. Imagine, folks. That's what the John Lennon song is about. Anyway, at this detached part of the convention, there was giant setups that I learned are called activations, which is clearly just another clever made up simulation term. There were activations for Facebook, TikTok, Amazon, Roblox. The famous creators that were welcomed to these areas also had a special valet outside of the hotel where they were picked up by a fleet of prioritized black Cadillac Escalades while the rest of the attendees and staff attempted to direct Ubers through the maze-like plaza of the hotel entrance. I say attempted because sometimes it was literally impossible to get a ride out of. There was also a Mr. Beast activation, which was I don't even know what it was. I only saw it behind a fence, and it looked like what I imagine people in 1990 thought a McDonald's play place would look like in 2050. And I can't even imagine how much that stupid thing costs. I guess it's all good when you have 50 million subscribers, whatever. I don't know how many subscribers he has. 10, I don't know. The YouTube lounge that I was in was set in a large conference room decorated with swanky hip furniture which I do have to admit, I did really like. It had a bar and sort of like an outdoor miniature like drive-through, I think that's what they were calling it, for YouTube Shorts, to try to get people to make YouTube Shorts in it. Stop making YouTube Shorts try to happen. I was stationed in the back corner in what looked like a cafe diorama in a Barbie set. This is where I painted gouache portraits on a tiny little table along with 2 other artists next to a photo booth where people could get like a trading card, a YouTube creator trading card that would like say how many subscribers they had and stuff, as if this was like some sort of weird thing in a Disneyland ride. I don't even know. I don't even know what this was. This was all like fine, I guess. And the first day I didn't feel that bad about the whole experience until the event actually began. The lounge, and in turn my working hours, went from 5 to 8 p.m. on Wednesday and then 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Thursday and Friday. And a DJ literally played music at an unignorable level the entire time. Even at 9 a.m. because the party never stops, baby. Luckily, I had access to a staff-only back room, which was quiet, and I could kind of like decompress during the breaks that I took when it got really loud. And it did get very loud and chaotic, to the point that at several moments, myself, staff, and other artists had to like retreat to this back room to avoid having like a full-on mental breakdown. I also have a lot of sensory issues, and I'm very sensitive to noise, so it was quite torturous in those moments. What was also annoying too was to get in and out of the event, you had to pass through a metal detector and like 8 security guards, including multiple K9 team dogs. So every time I needed to go use the bathroom, I had to walk through this wannabe TSA station and sometimes like wait in line just to get back into the room I was working in. To paint a clearer picture, perhaps, of my role and like how this whole thing worked, I'll break down like the flow of everything. So creators that were hanging out in the lounge would sometimes approach the area where myself and the other artists were working. We had a large wall behind us with portraits of creators, either done by us or a few artists working remotely. So these people would like come up, they would look at what we were doing, and if it piqued their curiosity enough, they would usually say something along the lines of like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And then we would explain what we were doing. We were making portraits of the creator throughout the weekend. And then we would offer if they wanted to have their portrait done. If they did, we would direct them to a person from the agency where they would share their YouTube channel and contact information with them, have their photo taken, and then an artist would be assigned to that person. We had basically like 2 to 3 hours to create each portrait from scratch. But I believe I was the only one working traditionally and everyone else was working digitally. So I had a little bit more flexibility with time, which was greatly appreciated because painting is a bitch and takes a lot longer than digital art. After they were sort of triaged by the staff, depending on whether or not the creator had enough subscribers to be deemed important enough to have artwork done of them, they were then assigned to an artist. And the artist would complete the piece within a couple hours, or if there was a backlog, maybe the next day. And then it would go up on the wall behind us. So if those creators came back to the YouTube lounge, they could then see the finished piece and take pictures with it, and everyone was usually really happy with the results. It was very endearing to like see the creators view the piece for the first time and like get really excited about it. All the pieces that the artists did, except for mine, were really good. The creator wasn't obligated to post the piece on social media or anything, but I think a lot of the folks did. And the YouTube creators' Twitter and Instagram like also sent out some posts of them. But I will say a lot of them were not tagged correctly, and not appropriate credit was given in all of the right circumstances. And though I might sound a little bitter, like let me just pause and say that I think this concept is actually very smart and a fun idea for an event like this. I think it was a really smart way to engage with creators that felt like authentic and special, especially compared to other things that I saw. And it did support several other small artists like myself. So it was not all bad, especially in concept. Additionally, I think everything was really well executed and flowed great. And I know how hard events with many moving parts can be to organize since I've done that myself. So I was really impressed by specifically the agency for making this all happen pretty seamlessly. Though I had hesitations about going out and participating in this event, I held hope that I would enjoy myself. But once again, I was a fool of a toque. The first night of working was really like a wake-up call for just how self-absorbed and vapid the industry of social media is. Like, I was surrounded by 21-year-olds wearing a lot of like branded bucket hats, not ones dissimilar to those worn by families I saw marching to Disneyland. And these kids looked like what I imagine Portlandia would depict as straight versions of queer kids in art school 10 years ago. It was very challenging to juggle like greeting people coming up to the area, engaging in conversation, which I struggle with in general, having a functional workflow on a table that was maybe 3 feet in diameter, and dealing with like the noise of people around you, all while trying to make art at the same time under a time limit. Luckily, I've taught art for several years, and like talking while making something and answering questions simultaneously is like a familiar thing to me. And also thank God for my ADHD medication. I don't think I could have got through this without being properly medicated. But like after just 4 hours on Wednesday, I was drained completely. At the beginning of Thursday, I hoped that, I would make some good art and end up feeling better about the state of being a person who makes things on the internet, and like maybe even meet and get to make art of some YouTubers who I follow and actually really enjoy the content of, and like maybe get to connect with them. But spoiler alert, none of that happened. Thursday and Friday were multiple times longer than Wednesday, more exhausting, and more eye-opening as to like what the bulk of the influencer industry looks like. But instead of giving you like a play-by-play of both Thursday and Friday, I'm gonna instead provide an itemized list of the things I witnessed while sitting at my table trying to paint. I met over 20 people that had over 1 million followers on at least one platform that I had never seen or heard of in my fucking life. At least 12 people who used the phrase influencer marketing. 5 people who misgendered me despite my pronouns being labeled on the card on my table. At least 12 influencers who were between the ages of 12 to 18 whose sole accompaniment were their managers, with one manager wrangling around 6 children influencers like a school field trip. 6 dog influencers, 2 of which were corgis. And yes, one of them was that corgi that rides around in a backpack. Yes, it was cute. 1 cat influencer carted around in a baby stroller by its owner during the loudest and most busy time of the event. A rabbit influencer. 6 family channel vlogging families, 2 of which I saw force their kids into having their photo taken at the weird trading card booth next to ours. And 1 which, and I cannot make this up, stole half of the chairs from our setup, blocking foot traffic and accessibility so that they could collectively sit and stand in a group while they bottle fed a newborn child who could not have been more than 2 months old. This was also during the loudest and busiest part of the event. 1 YouTuber who I actually did like just be rude to me for no reason. 4 people doing those like TikTok dances, which I discovered are even more embarrassing to witness in person. So that did make me feel better at least. 0 fucking trans people during Pride Month. And on top of that, 3 people who I came in direct contact with who later tested positive for COVID. Maybe it was the curly hair, or not going anywhere since COVID, or being next to Disneyland and 3,000 strip malls, or like maybe it was meeting the 6th dog influencer of the weekend that probably made more money than I do from like brand deals, or witnessing the borderline abusive and exploitative family channel vloggers who use their kids like props in hopes they'll become like other exploitative family channel vloggers who show off their extravagant lifestyles and their literal children to an audience of other literal children, and or possibly watching invited influencers with a minimum follower count wait for their Cadillac Escalade valet under a shaded tent while staff stand around in the California sun rescheduling their Ubers who refuse to pick them up. Or realizing that the 18-year-old Chad potato stick looking motherfucker with a 40-year-old slimy manager in a bucket hat and no personality to speak of standing in front of me is a valuable enough of an asset to these social media corporations to spend millions and millions of dollars for a weekend to invite them to Anaheim, California and fight for their time and attention by creating fucking activations full of swag just to make them feel special enough to continue posting on their sites. But it broke me, y'all. This whole thing fucking broke me. Like, I'm joking and like making light of it, but this like actually genuinely took me like 2 weeks to recover from. And it made me consider stop making YouTube videos or like deleting all of my accounts. Like, I really did not want to be on the internet anymore after this event. Like, it actually like damaged my mental health. Because when I left Anaheim, I was so disillusioned with the industry that I think should be more appropriately called the corporate influencer pipeline, that I knew I no longer could put any personal stock into my follower or subscriber count. Something that was already like, something that I knew that I should really stop doing. And I don't think I take as much importance to it as other people, but like part of me still did care, if I'm being honest. But I just like couldn't care about my subscriber count or my engagement rates or my channel growth, because like in the end, these platforms favor content that is the most suited towards companies profiting off of it. That's why the content they are farming through these coat hanger, cookie cutter influencers are so like milquetoast and flagrantly commercial. It's why they hoist up like the young, skinny, good-looking, white, cis, able-bodied creators who can amass millions of followers, most of which are literal children, once again, who want to be like the people that they see playing like fucking Fortnite or doing TikTok dancers or some shit and getting rich and famous on the internet from it. The entire industry is like vapid and disgusting and has brainwashed youth into uncritically thinking about the platforms they post on and who we all are willing to give so much of our private information to without considering why they might want to make you feel special and good and where that money is coming from. Yes, I knew this. Like, I knew this stuff before attending VidCon, but it was like, there's something to having to like endure it physically in person for more than 20 hours and knowing none of it actually fucking matters or is adding really anything to society. I'm not even sure it was like fun for the people who was made to be fun for. No, like so few people looked like they were actually having a good time. Everyone just looked like exhausted and miserable. I am used to conventions being a place for and by a community of people with a similar interest, a common denominator. And of course, there is a monetary element to that. And companies have started to capitalize on it. But VidCon was a hyper-capitalist hellscape, puppeteered by giant corporations to manipulate young people into making money for them in exchange for the chance of social capital. VidCon should not be considered and labeled as a convention, but an influencer marketing expo. But I want to end this video by saying that I don't think all social media is entirely bad. There are absolutely good things to it. That's why I post stuff on it. And I'm, of course, contributing to it and making money from it. All $38. And I accept that it is a part of the state of things and how this all works. However, I think what was truly demoralizing was the fact that it doesn't matter if you prioritize the quality and the subject of the content you make on these platforms. They only give a shit about how much money you can make them. And in a way that was liberating. Like, I almost feel set free by not caring enough about generating the most traffic. So I won't do shit that feels gross or bad to me to try to cater to it. I will make things I want to make in the way I want to make them because I like making them and I believe in doing it. And if that means I stay at 15,000 subscribers or whatever, and my videos only get like 10,000 views, then that's fine because at least the people who watched them actually wanted to and got something from it maybe. And most importantly, I think I have decided to reframe the mindset in which I create things from making a video to put on YouTube to making a video and putting it on YouTube, if that makes sense. Small distinction, but I think it's an important one. Anyway, now a word from today's sponsor. Thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. Your support means so much to me and allows me to keep making these videos, and like I'm probably never gonna get like brand deals or you know, actual sponsors or anything like that. So if you like the things I make, like Patreon truly allows me to keep making them. So thank you dearly. And I make exclusive videos only for Patreon of like art stuff, behind the scenes, and you get exclusive early access to stuff. And you even get your name in the credits of each video. What a treat. Well, that's all for me for now. I'm gonna go back to wallowing in self-pity. Until next time, doing art. Viewer, I am in my home in Maine, and it is 7:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on July 15th, 2022. I've just finished writing the script for this video, and despite not really knowing what the fuck it's about, I really need to finish it so I can stop being plagued by memories of that horrible weekend. I took a 10-day long internet hiatus and feel like I'm ready to get back in the saddle again, until I just can't take it anymore, and burnout causes me to take another hiatus until I collapse. Anyway, I still can't get my hair to do the same curly thing as it did in California, so I'm convinced, yes, it was in fact a simulation. Maybe you are real, viewer, or maybe you're just a Russian bot who wants to inflict my computer with some ransomware. Either way, you watched my video, and isn't that what YouTube is all about?